let's talk about the top 5 myths about protein. There's a lot of myths out there. These are the top 5 that I think are very common, and I just want to debunk for you all and give you the information you need to understand why these are myths. First one is going to be that protein spikes your blood sugar. Okay, this is a myth. Protein absorption is slow, and so there's no way that eating protein would spike your glucose an hour and a half, 2 hours after a meal. It takes hours to digest protein, and so any conversion of that protein into glucose is going to take hours and hours. It's not going to be a spike in any way, shape, or form. And then protein is primarily turned into glucose from a demand standpoint. Okay, if your blood glucose is getting too low, the body's going to convert some protein to stabilize your blood sugar. So it's preventing your blood sugar from going too low. And then also gluconeogenesis, which is the process of turning protein into glucose, is primarily the thing that makes keto and carnivore possible in the first place. Okay, so think about it. If you're eating zero or low carb and you have no glucose coming in the diet, and the body runs out of glucose from the liver, there's still body parts that require glucose. There's parts of the brain. Red blood cells can only run on glucose. They have no mitochondria in them, so they have to run on glucose. Parts of the heart like to run on glucose still, even when ketogenic. And Bella wants to get in on this video, but I'm going to put her over here. But the thing is, there's still some glucose that's required by those body parts, and if you're not eating any, and your liver's depleted of it, which is basically what you are when you're keto or carnivore, very low carb, the body has to make it. And that's what makes this lifestyle possible in the first place, is that your body can make all the sugar that it needs, all the glucose that it needs from protein. And that's also why you want enough dietary protein, because if you go too low in the diet with protein, the body is now going to have to make glucose from your own protein, which is your own muscle and lean mass. So you don't want that. The next myth is that protein will damage your kidneys. This is another very common myth, and still held to this day by many healthcare professionals. And it originally came from basically studying people with renal failure. So if people have kidney disease and they're basically in renal failure where their kidneys aren't really working anymore, yeah, protein's a problem, because also sodium's a problem, because the kidneys can no longer filter out sodium, filter out nitrogen and things from the urine or from the bloodstream that it needs to when you're eating protein. And so, yeah, and for those people that are in complete renal failure, their kidneys have failed, yeah, it's a problem to have protein. And that's why they eat low protein in those cases. But everything up to that point, up to even stage 3 kidney disease, we have examples from clients, like the ones I'll point out here, that even stage 3, they see improvements with eating this lifestyle by lowering the carbohydrates and prioritizing protein. And that's because when you get enough protein and you prioritize protein, the kidneys will get bigger and stronger, and they're able to filter more. So you'll actually see the filtration rates go up when you eat enough protein. And so up until basically stage 3 kidney disease, enough protein or getting a good amount of protein helps the kidneys be bigger, stronger, and filter more. And so it's kind of the opposite when it comes to that. And actually the National Academy of Science, when they looked at this, looked at all the evidence, that they've actually found the opposite, that low protein diets led to more kidney damage than high. And so low protein is really probably the problem when it comes to kidney damage, because the kidneys get smaller and they can filter less.
Aloha friends, one of my very favorite things to do is go camping, and I love camping in Devil's Lake, Wisconsin. If you've ever been here, give a shout out. It's amazing. I already ran around the lake this morning, and now we're on a family hike around the lake, And to keep my energy up, I always pack Element with me. All you have to do is throw it into a bottle of water and shake it up. It's a natural Gatorade without sugar. And if you want to get a free sample with your order, they are so generous. If you go to drinkelement.com/KetoMaria, you can get a free sample with your order, and it's really good. We love the raspberry, we love the orange, the watermelon's good. They're all good, and even the chocolate. It makes a great hot chocolate after a long hike around a campfire. So check it out, drinkelement.com/KetoMaria.
Number 3 myth is that increasing your protein will make you gain weight. So protein intake, we like to think of it as protein and versus carbs and fat. So protein is primarily an amino acid, a building block. It's used to build muscle, to maintain your body's lean mass, everything from skin, hair, nails, muscle, all those tissues. And so protein isn't really used as a fuel, okay? And what is used as a fuel? Carbohydrates and fats. Carbs are easily, metabolized by the body and used as fuel. Fats are very easily metabolized and used by the body as fuel as well. And so it will use those things. But then there's, the case of something called rabbit starvation, right? So people will point to this, say, well, if you just eat protein, you're going to get rabbit starvation. And yes, rabbit starvation is a real thing, but only in the context of a diet very low in fat and carbohydrates, so no real fuel coming into the diet, and a body that's low in fat and carbohydrates, okay? So if your body has very little fat on it, and you're eating basically only protein, no fat or carbs in the diet, yeah, rabbit starvation is a real thing, because again, protein doesn't want to be used as a fuel in the body, and it's very energy expensive to turn protein into glucose, a fuel. And so the body doesn't do it unless it has to. And when it's forced to, it's very inefficient and it can cause some serious problems. But guess what? If you got 50 pounds of extra body fat on your body, rabbit starvation is not a problem for you. Your body will just tap the fat on your body. So it's really not a concern in that. And here's actually a comment that I'll overlay here by Dr. Layman, who's the premier researcher around protein and the body. And this is his comment on rabbit starvation, which I completely agree with. So if you're increasing protein and you are gaining weight, number one, let's unpack that as, first of all, lean mass is weight, right? If you gain muscle, the scale goes up, but that's a good thing because you're gaining muscle. So that's one thing to consider here. Number two, protein isn't going to make you gain body fat per se on its own. Now, if you increase protein, and with that protein, you also had more fat in the diet because you ate more protein, okay, that's a different scenario. And yes, you could gain body fat because protein and fat went up, and so you could increase that way. If you increase protein while decreasing fat, and the important thing to understand here is if you did it on a 1-to-1 by grams, if you take and add 30 grams of protein and cut 30 grams of fat away, you get a serious advantage there. And many people find that they're even more satiated when they do that. There's something about lean protein that's very satiating. Think of, shrimp or chicken breast or lean protein sources. It's going to be hard to overeat them. And so protein is really not going to increase your weight unless it's good weight, which is muscle. So the next big myth is that you can only absorb 30 grams of protein per meal. And this one's pretty common as well. People out there will believe that, anything over 30 grams is basically wasted protein. And a couple things on that. First of all, if you look at the process of protein digestion, there's a hormone called CCK, which is stimulated by protein consumption. So when you eat protein, this hormone goes up. And what that hormone does is it slows the contractions of your digestive tract, of your intestines. By slowing the contractions of the digestive tract, the meat has, the protein has more time to be digested. And so that's one of the things that happens is if you eat a lot of protein, digestion slows down and allows you to process it all as it's going through the small intestine. The other thing is about half of the amino acids that you eat are absorbed by the small intestine and around the gut, right? This is pretty incredible if you think about it. About half of those amino acids you consume get held onto or taken up by the small intestine and the gut. And this creates something called an amino acid pool. And while it's not technically a storage, because there's no place to store protein in the body, it is able to build up amino acids in those areas that can then, when the body needs them, be released and used to build muscle and do different things in the body. And also, if you want to talk about muscle building, then maybe there is a cap in how much protein you can eat in one sitting. And it might be like 50 grams of protein in one sitting as far as how much muscle you will build. If you're like bodybuilder, you're trying to maximize muscle growth, up to maybe 50 grams, you start to get reduced effect of muscle building after that amount in one meal. But it doesn't mean it gets wasted, right? The body will digest all the protein that you eat, and it'll just use it for other things. It'll make your kidney larger, your liver larger and stronger. It'll make the GI tract larger and stronger. It will, those extra protein amino acids will be used for autophagy and increasing autophagy and cellular turnover. So all the protein you eat gets used in one way or another. For muscle building, there might be about a 50-gram cap on how much in a meal is going to improve muscle building outcomes. And then the final myth here is that protein synthesis, or mTOR, will shorten lifespan. Okay, so there's a lot of people talking about this now, about in fasting spaces, and like Victor Longo and some of these authors who talk about fasting mimicking diets and things. And this is all around the idea that mTOR, which is muscle protein synthesis, this is what happens when you eat a good 30 grams or more of complete protein. Your body builds muscle, right? And the thoughts or the claims behind this is that ages you, that shortens your lifespan when you have mTOR happening, okay? But here's the problem. All the data on this are based on two things. One is mice studies that were ad libitum fed. It means they are allowed to eat as much as they want, as often as they want, okay? So these mice, you can actually dissect them in the middle of the night and find their stomachs full of food. They'll wake up in the middle of the night to eat because they're in a cage. They just eat all day long because they have nothing else to do. And so, yeah, you're triggering mTOR all day long. And if you look at these studies and you look at these mice, and if they do them, they just change it to meal fed. So they give them, 3 meals instead of just letting them eat all the time. These negative effects associated with mTOR go away. So this is really just a poor study design, if you will, in that they're eating all day long, and plus obesity will shorten age, which these mice became obese. So that's part of the equation too on shortening the lifespan. And then the other thing that's used for this is epidemiology, these observational studies where they say, what did you eat this past year, or what did you eat yesterday, and then extrapolate that as you eat that all the time. So, here's we're going to associate data and outcomes based on that. Well, who knows what they ate in the last year, and who eats, the same thing every day? Not a lot of people do. And yesterday maybe it was a bad day, and you had, bad food choices, or those kind of things. And so it's really bad data. And then on top of it, when you do this analysis, when they went and got a burger, French fries, and a milkshake, and they kept doing that, was it the burger that was causing the health issues in the long run? or was it the fries and the milkshake and the bun? Okay, so it's really bad data. And again, if you take these mice and you just do them on meal timing and like 3 meals, then a lot of these factors go away. And so a lot of for me, what it really comes down to is, getting enough protein is about living a long, vital life, not a decaying, frail life as I get older. And protein ensures that you maintain your muscle plus activity. You maintain your muscle as you get older, and instead of very low protein, you're not triggering mTOR, but you're going to be in a wheelchair and very frail when you're in your 70s and 80s, and it's more about life quality than quantity in that case to begin with anyway. So those are my top 5 protein myths. Make sure that you share this with your friends. Anybody that would be interested or comes up with these issues that they think it's a problem, you can share this video with them to kind of debunk those issues, and I'll put some links, studies, and information below this video. Thanks, everyone.
If you want to change your life like I've changed mine with food, I would be honored to help you. Many of you don't know that I was twice my size. I had acid reflux. I had PCOS, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome. I had depression. I had IBS, which is irritable bowel syndrome. And food changed my life. And not only did that happen, I get to eat good food, right? Good food. So if you want to eat good food, I have perfected meal plans made by me and personal help with supplements or modifications if you have Hashimoto's, if you have Graves', if you have IBS, if you have PCOS, contact me. I would be honored to help you. You can go to keto-adapted.com and find a lot of different options there for personalized help, or message me by commenting below on this YouTube video, or you can check me out at mariamindbodyhealth.com. Mahalo.